District Board of Trustees Audit Committee meeting. We will get started. Item 1 is citizen participation. Because a quorum of the committee is present, anyone who is registered and would like to make a public comment on items posted on the committee's agenda, you are welcome to do so at this time. Do we have anyone?
No one is registered.
All right, moving on to item 2. Consider approval of minutes from the January 11, 2023 Audit Committee meeting. I didn't hear to remove anything, so do we have a motion to accept?
I make a motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Good. All right, item number 3. Discuss engagement letter, peer review, and audit plan, including any new GASB pronouncements by Sarah Roberts with Weaver.
All right, Mr. Rice.
Good morning, Chairman Chase, members of the Audit Committee, and Dr. Knoll. We're here today to talk about the proposal for our annual financial audit services for fiscal years 2023 through 2027. Weaver has been our financial auditors for the past 15 years, and our current agreement ended with our past audit. So Ms. Sarah Roberts, she is a partner with Weaver, is here to talk about the proposal moving forward.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
So thank you, Darren. So I'm here to talk about our proposal for the next 5 years. I have a brief presentation, about 3 slides, and we'll be happy to take any questions or discuss any other topics that you would like to. First, about Weaver, just some general information. Weaver was founded in 1950 in Fort Worth. Our headquarters currently is in Houston. We're ranked among the top 35 firms nationwide in terms of number of CPAs. We currently have a little over 800 professional staff. Altogether about 1,000, little over 1,000 employees altogether. We have offices coast to coast, from LA to New York, but our core really remains focused here in Texas. We provide the full range of public accounting services and then some, with practice areas in all industries really across the board. But our governmental audit practice really remains one of our core areas of focus and one of our largest practice groups within the firm. Specifically with school districts, well, governments in general, we work with over 300 governmental clients annually, with over 50 school districts each year. More than 50 of those governments out of the 300 are GFOA award recipients, such as Conroe ISD. We do have 9 staff members currently, including myself, that serve on the GFOA Special Review Committee. Among our school district clients, we're proud to count some of the largest school districts in Texas. So Conroe ISD, like Darren mentioned, we've worked with you for 15 years. We've worked with Cypress Fairbanks ISD for at least that long. I think we're a little bit longer than that. We've been working with Cypher ISD for quite a while. Dallas ISD, Northside ISD, Fort Worth ISD, we've all been working together about in the 10-year range, maybe a little bit more. Houston ISD, we just renewed for another 5-year term with them, which will bring us to the 10-year mark. We've currently been working with Houston ISD for 5 years. So we came in right after some transitions with their board there, and so we're working with them through this current transition. Specifically for Conroe ISD, our length of experience with you has really enabled us to develop an efficient and coordinated approach, which enables us to really focus on the higher risk areas. A big part of any audit is laying the groundwork and establishing a baseline understanding of the entity that you're auditing and their financial statements. So the fact that we have a framework already in place with you enables us to really take an efficient approach. In terms of our cost proposal, our focus here is on value. We're proposing to keep our costs steady for the first 2 years of the next 5 years, and then build in an increase that amounts to about 1.5% per year over a 5-year term, deferring that into the later periods. So that's all I have prepared. Happy to take any questions.
And so when do you, it's nice to see you again too, Ms. Weeks. Sarah. So when do you begin your audit activities for a fiscal year?
So for Conroe ISD and any of our school districts that have an August 31st year end, we typically start interim field work in July, depending on preferences, maybe June, maybe as late as early August, depending on schedules and preferences. And then we will start our final field work. We'll spend about a week or so on an interim period with planning and doing test controls and stuff like that. And then we come back after the close of the fiscal year. For Conroe ISD, we're usually looking at early November. But again, we are flexible based on schedules. Conroe ISD, we really wrap up our audit pretty quickly in terms of comparison to other August 31st year ends. We're usually substantially complete, if not complete, before the winter holiday break, so that when your personnel come back from break, we're just wrapping up and ready to go to your first audit committee meeting in January.
And how has the scope changed over the last, well, maybe not 15 years, but maybe over the last 5 years?
Well, so last 5 years, we've had some significant new accounting standards, pension, OPEB, GASB 87 with the leases last year, changes in fund balance reporting, some things like that. So a lot of changes from an accounting perspective over the last 5 years. Also, with just general COVID disruption environment and the federal funding that goes along with that, that's created some new funding sources, new compliance requirements that have implications as far as risks, not just with the specific funding sources, but also anytime there's a new funding source or new compliance requirements or anything new in general, that definitely changes, or not shifts necessarily, but adds an element to our focus that we look at. And we also monitor changes in observations from our experience broadly with school districts. What we see, we consider what can go wrong in the school district environment based on our observations broadly, and we consider those in our risk assessment. So we're kind of constantly evolving based on the circumstances.
And do you anticipate a scope change to 2023 or 2024?
For this coming fiscal year, there is a new accounting standard coming up, GASB 96, which we've talked about some already, so I won't go too much into that. Don't think it'll have a huge impact on the district. There will be some things that we'll need to consider in our risk assessment and in our planning. Federal funding streams we expect to remain consistent with in terms of federal grants. So I'm not anticipating any major scope changes in terms of the financial audit or the compliance audit. We do always, like I said, update our risk assessment and our scoping plan based on the circumstances at hand.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Just looking at the contract, you guys have been our audit service the entire time I've been on the board, and I know that it's worked out really well. I've heard nothing but great things, and we've always had good stuff. But could you just talk a little bit about the 5-year contract? Is this 5-year contract a pricing contract, or is this a service contract? What is this?
So we sign with you annually an engagement letter on an annual basis, which will lay out the terms of our engagement the standards under which we'll perform our audit, our respective responsibilities, etc. Our proposal today is for the 5-year pricing term.
Okay.
To be renewed annually.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Roberts.
What we're looking for today, and the reason that it's here is we will bring this actually to the full board in June. So we're just looking for a recommendation from the audit committee. If y'all can vote on that or give us some guidance.
Vote.
Sure. So we need a motion for a recommendation?
Yes.
So I move that we accept the recommendation of Weaver Accounting Services and Taxes Services for the proposal. I move we accept the proposal. How about that? I move we accept the proposal, the Weaver proposal.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion?
It's a little wordy. It's a rainy day.
It's a bit much. Does everyone understand the motion? Yeah, okay. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4. Consider approval of 2023-2024 audit plan.
Morning.
Good morning.
Chairman Chase, members of the audit committee, Dr. Knoll, and all our guests. Welcome to a rainy day.
Yes.
Better than your first day, though. Brian, you always make me nervous. Anytime there's anything to do with internal audit and rain, makes me nervous, Brian.
It does. It always reminds me of driving in. I was telling Darren, it's almost 4 years now. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
4 years.
So just background knowledge for those of y'all that don't know, Mr. Hayden's very first day of employment in Conroe ISD, he showed up and I showed up, and then we closed school because it started flooding. So he walked in and was like, "Hey, it's great to see you, Ryan. Get home before you can't get home." So anytime it's raining and internal audit's on the agenda makes me nervous.
All right, so we're going to talk about the proposed plan for next year for internal audit. For activity funds, we've actually added a couple schools for next year. We feel like we can do a little more in that area. So, as always, we do all the high schools. And then what we're looking, trying to do the bigger activity funds. So, a lot of junior highs and intermediates. But that's an extra 2 that we've added from what we had last year.
Did we, would we include in this list of activity fund lookups, any follow-ups? Any follow-ups we would do?
If the school had bad,
Yeah.
then they're on the list for next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
The major audits that we propose for next year, number 1 is payroll. And that's because we've got a new person that's head of payroll now. That's a good opportunity to go in and help them, with efficiencies and see if we can do anything else to make their job a bit easier in the transition. So, we'll look at segregation of duties, payment, fraud controls, pay rate, leave, things like that. Now, Weaver on their audit, they do some things in payroll, so that would be out of scope with the things that Weaver covers. The next one is accounts payable. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Segregation of duties, payment and fraud controls. We've got the travel cards, information system and databases, making sure that they're secure. And then the other one will be an IT cybersecurity risk assessment. And we can discuss that more in detail when we talk about the cybersecurity plan review. But just in general, they'll be identifying cybersecurity risks based on existing technology, kind of review and evaluate the threats. And then they put everything into a matrix, and it kind of gives you a roadmap for going forward for cybersecurity.
These 3 will be with Weaver.
Yes.
Got it.
That's how I try to separate them out. Ones I'll use Weaver, and then just the ones that internal audit will do.
These are 3 big topics, so
Yeah.
I would expect it.
Yeah. And then the smaller audits that we'll do for next year, the Janet K. Bartlett Intermediate Construction Audit, the print shop, so just kind of overall controls. There's a lot of chargebacks, a lot of paper they go through, so inventory control, things like that. Now, field trips is an interesting one. We have 3,300 field trips for this year, $900,000 worth. So that's a good area to look at. Make sure that the controls are correct, that we're getting the documentations in a timely manner. So that's why that's on this list. The in-house athletics ticketing, we are instituting a new system in August, I believe. So That will be like the last audit we'll do when we'll do it next summer. We'll give it like a year to operate and then go in and audit it.
This is to reduce like cash collection, or what is the new process?
It's like ticketing for athletics.
Uh-huh.
And I think that maybe Darren can make like prom tickets and stuff.
The majority of the process is for football tickets.
Yeah.
And season ticket sales and stuff like that. And these new ticketing systems, they're basically cashless.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
they're,
what-
you know, pay by phone and stuff
Uh-huh.
like that, electronic paying. So
Okay.
we had an in-house system.
Yeah.
The programmer that we had previously that created that program is no longer with us. So now we're moving to an outside vendor. And so at the end of this next year, I asked Brian just to look at that and make sure everything's flowing well in that program.
Is the vendor, is this a common vendor throughout
Yes, it's
school
hometown
districts?
ticketing, yes. Most school districts around here use hometown ticketing, and so that is how we found them and actually used one of their bids, to put ours together for them. So
Okay,
Will
good.
this be the first year?
this will be the first year with hometown ticketing.
So we previously had an outside vendor, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, or years
We had-
back, we had an outside vendor. Then we,
E-Chicks.
yes, and then we converted, went internal, made our own system. And then now with staff changes and maintaining that, just, we don't have a volume of people to run the system. It's more efficient, I think, to use an outside system that's already created. So we're kind of switching back, so it's.
And really, if you're a
Kinda ebbed and
patron and
flowed.
you're standing outside the gate and you need to call somebody,
Mhm.
they have staff members that
Sure.
are, a help desk there to answer their calls before they were calling the accounting office. And hey, so it's going to be a lot more efficient for our patrons and constituents.
Well, will it be an app that they have to download?
I
Do you
don't know
know?
if it's a download, but you can download the app, or you can just have the
Okay.
QR code.
I like the idea. I mean, we've been traveling, going to different fields with baseball with my son, and it's necessary, but the aggravating part for a lot of people is they're standing outside the gate. They can't get in because they're having trouble downloading the application
There's no service or whatever.
because there's no service. Or, for example, if you're on the CISD internet, you can't. They don't know how to. You have to turn it
I
off.
don't want to speak for Mr.
It's a
McCord,
bit of a
but one of
headache.
his goals is to make sure if we have Wi-Fi at the stadiums, the Wi-Fi is working and it is strong enough, and to make sure that we don't have those bottlenecks at the stadiums, and make sure that is as seamless as possible as our folks are getting into the stadium. So we work very hard. We have the best equipment that we can get, so it's faster, to check those tickets in.
Okay.
So one more question, will this affect the process at all the high schools and how they distribute the tickets where they purchase the full
Processes will
year?
generally be the same,
No?
it's
Okay.
just through a third-party vendor instead
Gotcha,
of
okay.
in-house. So there'll be some slight changes, but as far as them selling season tickets and everything, pretty much the same process.
Oh, okay, because I know that many of those administrative assistants, they do a huge amount of work for each of the high schools to get all those season ticket holders in. Parents stand out
Yeah, we get-
in the rain for an hour just to get in line to get their season tickets, and so I was wondering if this service would also help alleviate some of that.
It should help, and then plus they're gonna get extensive training from Hometown Tickets. They have people that will come and train all the folks that will be selling the tickets and everything, so we feel very comfortable.
Some of that is self-inflicted.
I'm sorry, are you saying that me standing out there for an hour with my chair and my rain cap was self-inflicted?
Yeah, it's they, especially at the Woodlands and Conroe, where you have 30 years, in the Woodlands case, but in the Conroe's case, 50, 60-year season ticket holders. They are rooted in tradition, and they also want to make sure that they never do anything that they don't create a new system that would put potentially those folks that have had 50-year tickets at a disadvantage. So there are times when we've seen more efficient ways to do some things, but yet we still choose a more traditional route with season tickets, just to make sure that we honor the legacy of some folks, and we don't step on them. So,
Perfect.
we will. The system will probably be more efficient and user-friendly than even maybe our process will be, just because we want to honor that historical. Because I know when we first went to electronic tickets, for example, there were a lot of folks in Conroe that we had to support through that, because they, for 50 years, they have walked in that athletic office and they have bought their season tickets, and they are reserved, and we want to make sure that we give them their ability to do that still. So,
And with this system will be able to go through all athletic sports, all the, from football all the way through soccer, baseball, everything. And then we can look at, as Brian said, it can handle prom tickets and anything that we're selling tickets to. But that's down the road. We want to get, we're going to take baby steps and get it going. But there are potential for future uses of this.
Do you have an idea of the amount of tickets or dollars a dollar amount would be processed either through the existing in-house or the foreseen replacement?
Cindy Westrup, who is she is not here with us this morning, but she would know. We sell about $600,000 worth of athletic revenue each year for the whole programs, just athletics itself. So right about $500,000 to $600,000.
All right. And so then, Brian, y'all would go in towards the end of the year and see how it operated
See what controls
through
we put around it.
football season? Okay.
The controls different at the different campuses. I mean,
Yeah.
we want looking for consistency
Okay.
in the control environment.
All right.
So this system, this is 100% electronic, no paper?
I would think there would have to be ticket sales. Ms. McCord, is it?
It's 100% electronic, and we've been 100% electronic for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And they're used to it. I mean, it's. Yes, sir.
One thing
come to the mic, please.
One thing that'll be nice about it, first off, you can use it also for band contest and prom and a lot of events that we still haven't even dreamed up yet. But one thing that's really nice, and Mr. Rice emphasized it, is the fact that there's someone to call at 5:45. I think of my father going through the process, and so he'd have someone to call and help him at 5:45 or 6:30 on a Friday night. But also, if I'm coming from Cleveland or Willis or wherever, I don't have to set up an account. I can just go to the website and buy the tickets. I don't have to have an account with CISD. I don't have to go through all that process, which is somewhat cumbersome. And we eliminated that toward the end of our own proprietary system, but that is big. And we've met with this company a couple times, and they really have it together, and they are the Coca-Cola of this. And we're really excited about what the reports we're going to be able to get and generate an overall knowledge of what's going on with ticketing. And so it's a big deal. It's very outward facing, and so we're excited about it.
How big is this vendor? Like, we could expect to have like SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports from them, or?
I think you may have to.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, 'cause it's processing, right? Personal information, your bank account information, your name, and all of that. So we would want to make sure that they had the appropriate IT general controls in place, right, to safeguard our patrons' personal data.
Mr. Chase, another positive aspect of it, we'll also be able to allocate and track and allow for our staff, our workers, our employees to have tickets and track how those are being used or who they're assigned to. And so it's just really, we're just getting into all these different possibilities that we're going to have with it. So there's a lot to it.
So is this an annual subscription that are we subscribing to this service? Are we paying them? Like, are we under contract?
Yeah, it's a 1 year. We can renew every year.
Every year. And so compared to what our in-house system was costing versus this, are they comparable?
There will be an additional charge when I buy the ticket. Right now, we do not have the programmer who helped develop it. We put a lot into the program, and we have advertised for the position. We've had it open for a long time, and we've not had a taker for this programming position, which is an important position. I believe we elevated the pay grade of the position. It is still posted, It's just a very competitive market to find programmers of this ability. And in fact, we've gone down the road and discussed with you the possibility of, besides raising this particular position's pay grade, also we're looking at hybrid work as a possibility, or actually telework, I believe, Mrs. Gladys. So we have a lot of things in motion, but I'm just telling you, having someone to call, to me, that's the biggest thing.
And part of it, I think, too, is just the efficiencies of, this is an area where systems exist that we can purchase, and all the controls are built in, and it's user-friendly, all those things. If we did hire a programmer, we have other needs within the district that we can't go out and buy an established program for. So it's just about making sure that we're assigning our people to work that makes sense and not replicating something that is readily available in the marketplace. So
Yeah, my question was mainly just cost benefit. I think that there's a lot of benefits that I'm hearing, so I'm sure it does, the cost is greater.
Yeah, and you also get the added benefit, right, of the transfer of risk, right? When you outsource these kind of services, you get to transfer some of the risk you would assume if you were operating your own in-house proprietary solution. So I think it would make sense that it costs more, right, because you get more. Are we planning, and maybe this is not audit relevant, but are we planning on passing through some of those additional costs? Or
that's what I was going to say. The cost of this system is passed on to the ticket purchaser.
All right.
So there are no costs to CISD with this program.
Except the annual.
Well, the
contract
annual contract, there is no fee that we pay. We just contracting with them, and they collect their fees from ticket sales. They get a percentage of each ticket sale.
So we don't pay them a baseline.
We don't pay them a baseline amount. Right?
Yeah,
Correct.
but it's a reasonable pass
Yes,
through.
ma'am.
We're not
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about
I don't recall what it is off the top of my head, but it's pennies.
Ticketmaster.
Pennies
Okay.
per ticket.
It's not Ticketmaster, that's for
Right.
sure. Yeah. $20 ticket costs you $117.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
I know, it's not Taylor Swift. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, one thing in closing, and just shooting off the cuff here, but one thing I like about the company, this isn't a company that does a lot of things, and this is a side gig. This is what they do, and they are all in. And there's a difference when you're establishing a relationship with a vendor, when they're all in, and this is what they do, and they've done it for a long time. Districts smaller than us, similar to us, and bigger than us. So they have a long history, and wheels are in motion.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the other things that we'll be doing is we'll be follow up on the maintenance audit from earlier this year, the child nutrition follow-up, and the annual PEAMS, which for our new members is we go and look at attendance taking, because that a lot of our revenue is based on. So we make sure that the controls around taking attendance on time are being followed. So that's an annual summer audit.
And do you go to specific campuses or?
Yeah, I mean, can't do every one, right? So we picked 5 days. I think last year it was 15 campuses, 5 separate days. You look at the times that they're supposed to be taking attendance. You go through every teacher in that time and see what time they actually took attendance, or if they took it.
Yeah. Good.
And so that's it for the audit plan for next year.
I really like the proposed audits. I think payroll and AP. I mean, payroll is the biggest expense going on in this district. I mean, education is a people business, right? So payroll is so significant, and I think you're exactly right. A change in leadership is a good time to go in and give the new leader some insight and some transparency and some ideas. Also to help them be really successful there. So I like that. And then AP, I mean, that is really a significant area as well for us, also with all, construction and stuff like that. But it's also a growing area of fraud. And so the risk there is just exponentially growing. also with the ability, right, of ChatGPT to generate like false invoices and to do social engineering with phishing. So I think that's a great idea to look at that as well. And then IT cyber risk assessment. I mean, this area could not be more important right now. So well done.
All right.
Anything else? No? Okay, so I think we had to consider approval. So do I have a motion?
I'll give it a shot again.
All right.
I move that we accept the audit schedule as outlined.
Do I have a
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, vote. All those opposed? All right. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right. Next item 5. All right. Review internal audit schedule for fiscal year 21-22. Item A, activity funds.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're pretty much done with the activity funds. We've actually added a couple this year. So as you can see, we're on schedule to be finished with everything by the 1st of August. That's what we're shooting for.
Sorry.
By the 1st of August? Okay.
Next up is the child nutrition audit. So we had a couple of opportunities for improvement. Number one was cash handling. And as I say, they have great cash handling procedures. The issue that we found, it wasn't the procedures themselves, it was just people following them. So as you can see, we had instances of only one person counting cash drawers when you're supposed to have two. One person signing a cash drawer report when you're supposed to have two, or reports not being filed. So, like I said, it wasn't a matter of the procedures, it's just more of a matter of training and probably having the supervisors, which is a more steady person, and because a lot of people doing this, you can have some turnover. So you're going to have that constant kind of churn of people that are supposed to be following these. So unfortunately, you kind of have to assign a little more responsibility to the field supervisors and the managers, just to follow up and make sure that those things are being done. But if you have any questions, Robin and her team are here to answer them for you.
So in your audit work, it wasn't really the test of design, it was the test of effectiveness that you found deficient? Okay.
So because they had such detailed procedures.
Yes. Yeah.
That made it easy. Okay, are two people signing this cash flow report?
Yeah.
And you might have, depending on elementary school, maybe 2 points of service.
Sure.
Or high school, you have 4 or 5. So we looked at every point of service and kind of just followed the trail.
I mean, is there a way to transition to cashless? Maybe this is not for you, but all right. I could, for all the reasons you pointed out, it's not terribly surprising, right? That there were these observations. So the question is, if the test of design is well done, the processes are very detailed, the guidance, the work instructions about what to do and what's expected are robust, but when you find in practice that they're not being followed, like how do you then fix that? How do you address that?
We're going to provide more training this summer at our in-service, and then our field supervisors are going to monitor it more closely when they go out for their visits.
Okay.
And they just probably didn't focus on that as much as they should have. So they'll be doing that.
And that you think is, you think they'll be able to do that? I mean, I imagine there's a million things to look at when they're out there. Okay.
They'll just make it a priority.
Okay.
I'm not as big as in diverse as our district is, I'm not sure we could, for child nutrition, I don't know that we could go to a
Yeah.
completely cashless
No, and
system
the state
ever.
won't allow that, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Hey, just while we have a chance, Robin, I want to say thank you to you and your entire team. The work that y'all do every day is amazing, and I think we go back to even through the pandemic when this whole place was shut down. The people that came to work every day were our child nutrition workers because we were still feeding kids. And since you're at the mic, Robin, I just want to acknowledge that. And if you would you introduce your team that's here? Just because we don't get a chance, they don't get a chance to meet you all every day. And so we're glad that you're here. And if you could introduce everybody.
Sure. This is Karen Patterson. She's our assistant director.
Hi, Karen.
This is Teresa Perry. She's our supervisor of business operations. And then Thompson Good is here. He's our system analyst.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thank you.
Robin.
Thank you. And as always, I got to tell you, being an internal auditor for CISD, it's a pleasure because the people are so cooperative, so helpful, so open to hearing. I mean, it's got to be tough when I make that call to Robin and say, hey, we found this
Yeah.
and this, and she's, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
And so that's the reception I get all the time. The other issue that we found was the safe security. So because if the manager that morning can't show up, you know, the assistant has to open the safe. And so what we found was that combination for the safe was pretty much public knowledge. You know, they had sticky notes in file drawers, and they were on unsecured folders. So, you know, so Robin, they've got all the combinations now in their office. So if anyone needs that, they have to contact Robin or one of her team to get that combination.
Okay. I mean, how much, never mind. I don't want to ask that. Thank you.
And then we just had an observation, for deposits. We had one instance of a deposit slip not retained, and then 4 instances of the manager signing the deposit report when there was 0, and there was just some confusion within the procedures of how that's done. So I know Robin's rewritten that and made it clear who has to sign in that instance. So that was an observation. And I believe.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Just for, and then maybe Robin, maybe you can help me answer this just for context, because we go back and we saw, 4 instances, 8 instances. Can you tell me how many kitchens that you have how many cafeterias are at work every day?
63.
63. And then average day, how many meals are we serving in a given day?
Probably 40 to 45,000.
Yeah. So I just like to give that context. Like, we're talking about a massive organization here, so that's.
And how many supervisors are at each campus? How many you said?
We have a manager
and
at
assistant
each campus, and then we have 6 field supervisors.
that rotate through the district.
What's a typical staff look like, just to help, so what's what's a
An
typical elementary versus junior high
probably
versus?
5. Conroe High has probably 17.
Okay.
Quite a few.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then for the remainder of the year, the summer, we've got the review of the cost and calculations for the Caney Creek remodel. We got the police audit follow-up from last year, and the annual PEMS, as I discussed earlier.
All right. Before we move to this one, we'll move to closed session. The committee will go into closed session pursuant to sections 551.076 and 551.089 of the Texas Open Meetings Act Any action, vote, or decision of the committee with regard to any matters discussed in closed session will be made when the committee returns to open session. The time is 8:18 a.m. The committee is now in open session at 9:59 a.m. The next item on the agenda is item 7, to confirm next scheduled meeting on Wednesday, September 13th, 2023 at 7:30 a.m.
Sounds good.
Yeah, all right.
I will clear the morning.
Half day.
Please do. All right, that ends our agenda. Do I have a motion to dismiss?
I move to dismiss.
Second.
Sure.
All right, we're on.
Thank you, everybody.